Hey, welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me. Today, I thought I'd go through some of these beautiful correspondence book courses that Joe Kubert offered. I'm a big collector. I wish there was something like this when I was a kid or even a young adult. As you know, I've said it before, if you know me, I went to the Kubert School from 1988 and I graduated in 1991. It was in the late 90s, I believe Joe created these. And when he originally sold them, he sold them with a VHS tape. A VHS tape. Do you guys even know what VHS is? I don't have a VCR. Who has a VCR? Now I believe when you actually do the course, they come with a DVD of Joe teaching along. But the cool thing was when these first came out, you had to take the whole course. You couldn't just buy these books by themselves. And then at some point, they just started selling the books by themselves. So let me show you here, because there is a really good bargain going on right here. This is the Kubert School website. Hold on here, give me a sec. This is the Kubert School website, the Kubert Art Store, I should say. So it's kubertartstore.com, the correspondence section. They have a great deal going on where you can get all 6 of these books for 140 bucks. That, my friend, is a bargain. All 6 books, 140 bucks. It is superheroes course book, supervillains course book, horror course book, penciling course book, inking course book, and story graphics course book. Now, these don't come with the lessons, or these don't come. So the way the stuff works is you follow along in the book and you, let me go back to my screen here so I can show you. You follow along in the book, and as you follow along, you do the assignments, and you would mail the assignments in, and they would be marked up by an instructor at the school and sent back to you, and that's how you learn. And like I said before, you had to buy just the whole course, and the course, I don't even know what the course costs. I want to say the course back then was like 300 bucks, but now you can just buy these books. So I have the penciling one, and I don't know if we'll have time to go through them all, but I'll do my best. Supervillains, inking. Oh, these are heavy. Horror. And then what I don't have, but what I need to actually buy myself now that they're selling them individually at their website, is I have small printouts a friend of mine gave me of heroes and superheroes and story graphics, the storytelling one. So if you're a fan of Joe Kubert's work, these are just gorgeous because they're chock full of Joe Kubert's artwork. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the penciling one first, and to do that, I'm going to have to switch the mic around and attach it to my collar so you'll be seeing what I'm seeing. Let's see. John says, I've got one of his books, so much awesome information. You are correct. These books are just fantastic. So let me switch this around real quick. Onto my collar. Bear with me as I do this. Ugh. What's going on back here? Give me a second. All right, let's see. Penciling. So these books are 11 by 17, and they're 11 by 17 because that's the size the comic books are drawn. We draw comic books, 11 by 17. Let me just do this so you don't see the screen. So we draw comic books, 11 by 17. Let's angle this down a little more. There is no promo code. I wish there was a promo code. I'm just doing this out of the goodness of my heart because I love the Kubert School, because that's where I went. So penciling, it has a table. Each book has a table of contents that breaks down the lessons. So lesson 1 just kind of goes over the tools, pencil and paper, things like that. So that's weird that on my screen it shows brown for this stuff, but this is actually green. I wonder if that's just my screen. Anyhow, so from a collector standpoint, I love these, like I said, because I love Joe's artwork and I love seeing Joe's art. Now, some of the work in this book was actually drawn by Andy. So, for instance, these figures right here are penciled by Joe's son, Andy Kubert. But I love seeing pencil work. I just love it. And he basically says, trace and copy these pencil drawings, then do a series of drawings of your favorite comic book or cartoon characters and try to create some original ones. So this book is just about penciling, pencil techniques, things like that, finished pencil, so on and so forth. Up here, he talks about the different types of paper. Plate finish is like really smooth. Then you have smooth paper, and then they call it kid finish, and kid finish is just a vellum surface, which is a little bit, has a little bit of texture to it. He talks about the different types of pencils, and then these heads are drawn by Andy Kubert as well, Joe's son, one of Joe's sons. See, the thing with the website is, and I would suggest that on their website, they do a flip through of the books so you can see what you're getting before you buy them. So he talks about different types of erasers that can be used. He even shows kind of what the erasers do on different types of board, 2-ply, vellum, the kid finish. And this is just a fun little sketch he did that he erased through. I love this right here. Let me see if I can get closer. This to me is just a gorgeous looking city. It looks like it's raining with the way the line work's done, and it just has great atmosphere to it. And in each one of these books comes with a few sheets of actual Bristol board paper, the same type of paper professional artists use to draw on, that are obviously blank, so you can do your assignments, and they're meant to be torn out of the book. And, you know, they're blank on both sides, so if you need to draw on both sides, you can. He goes into the, sharpening a pencil and stuff. So, I mean, they're thorough. And he goes into designing a sequence. First, design a sequence for a comic book page. This need not be a complete story, just a sequence or part of a story. Feature your own original character or favorite existing comic book or strip character. Do this on 8.5 by 11 unlined stationery or copy paper. Plan your sequence in a smooth flow of story. The number of panels should be between 6 and 9. So this is getting into one of the first lessons. This artwork on this page was drawn by Joe. I wish it was as easy as he makes it out to be here in these 3 steps. Another blank piece of paper. Main character hero, so he shows what he does for basically a character design, which is cool. Then he gives you 3 panels at the bottom of what to draw for it. These are just examples of different styles of realistic, cartoony, and cartoony. Obviously, this is Western stuff. And it just, they just walk you through. This is cool. This explains lighting and throwing cast shadows and stuff. So that's pretty cool. And just how it gives depth. Like you look at this one right here, and without any lighting, you don't know how tall anything is. You're looking down on some buildings or something. Here with the lighting, you get a great sense of the shapes, even though it's a flat image you're looking down on. Then this examples of lighting, and this looks like it was drawn by Andy as well. Another blank piece of board to draw on. This is about contrast. So lesson 2 is about contrast. For instance, here you've got a white background in your figure. So, I mean, your eye's drawn to here, but, here's another way to do it. White silhouette, dark background, small figure, big cast shadow, or full silhouette. This is a drawing done by Andy as well, showing basically the initial breakdown. So on the left-hand side, that's the initial breakdown of the drawing with no rendering and no lighting. And then on the right-hand side, he went in and he added some lighting and rendering to the figures to add some form to it. A couple different ways of doing a city. And there's not a ton to read, but there's a good amount to read of instruction, which is really nice. And I've had these books for probably close to, I don't know, 20 years. And I just thought I'd dig them out and go through them with you guys. So, if you like what you see, you can go to the website and buy them. And I linked in the description the website to go to, and also my Indiegogo for First Man is in the description. So please back my Indiegogo. Us indie creators, that's what I am. I'm a indie creator, can use your support. I love this creature. These look like they're drawn by Andy Kubert as well. He's just so good. This lighting and stuff is just so cool. Another blank sheet to draw on. So there's lots of paper in here. I love this. This is talking about lighting again, and just breaking it down to its simplest shape, which is kind of like an egg shape. And you can tell there's lighting on both sides. And in here you can see where the lighting's coming from below, coming from above. And then you apply that same thing to a more complicated shape of the human face, which has more planes and stuff to it that have to be broken up with the lighting. But this has the core lighting going right down the middle, and this is basically the same thing, right down the middle. But then the cheeks come in, the nose pops out, so it's little on both sides. This goes in a little bit down here into different textures for when you do rendering on objects. This is a great example where Andy laid out a page, and he has it. Once again, these are breakdowns. These are pencils that have no lighting and no rendering, so these could be given to an inker or a finisher, and it would be their job to add the lighting and the rendering. The way Andy works and a lot of people work is they'll get to this stage of the drawing, and then once they get to this stage, they might throw some tracing paper over it and try a different couple lighting scenarios. So you can see, looking at these two examples right here, the differences that Andy was playing with lighting. And if you do it on tracing paper, as you can see, you can lift it up and down. And I know some people do this, and they'll take, instead of tracing paper, they'll make a small copy of the page and use a marker to rough it out. Another thing you can do is you can draw your figure if you're doing a costume design. So you can draw a basic figure, put tracing paper over it, and design different costumes over them as well. so you preserve the initial drawing. Let's see, what do we have here? Assignment lesson 2. For your assignment, create a finished pencil drawing that may be used as a cover for a new comic book. The requirements are as follows. Draw in any style with which you feel comfortable. 2. This comic page must feature dinosaurs. 3. A caveman is on the back of a pterodactyl in flight. 4. A cave woman has just fallen off and is plunging towards Earth. 5. Allow space for title and promotional copy. And, one of the things I learned in the Kubert School was when you're doing a thumbnail or a rough for a page, just think about the overall big shapes. Don't think about, oh, what's this pose doing here? And what's the man's pose here and stuff. Just concern yourself with the composition with overall shapes. Once you get the shapes, that's when you can start refining down. It's like sculpting in clay. You take a big piece of clay and you don't just start with the detail. You start shaping the clay to, for instance, the torso shape. And then once you have the torso shape, you can start breaking down individual muscle masses and so on and so forth till you get to the detail of a torso of like the individual abs or even like a belly button and stuff. So you work big to small. Here's some more great art by, I think Andy did this stuff as well in the book. I mean, these books are just a wealth of knowledge, even for professionals like myself. If you're a fan of Joe Kubert, and honestly, even if you're not, I would get these because they're such a remarkable price. And the bang for your buck is phenomenal. And it's just inspirational. I look at this stuff and it really jazzes me up to want to draw. This talks about dimension. This is all drawn by Joe himself. And he's talking about dimension. You want to remember when you're drawing something, you're drawing on a two-dimensional surface, but you want to make it look like it's three-dimensional. So, for instance, this flat shape right here is actually a tube. And as the tube leans back, it foreshortens and you can see the shape of it. Rectangle box, same thing. And that applies to a figure as well. This is a straight-on figure, not much to it, but when you apply the tube shapes to wrap things around, it gives you depth as the figure's going back. Same with this leg. And then Joe did a person in perspective with arms coming at you and legs going away from you and stuff. Steve has a question. Steve, I'll share my screen again. This is Steve. So how do you get these? How much are they? Steve, I will answer that right now. This is the website. I know it's hard to see. It's kubertartstore.com. I believe there should be a link below the YouTube video in the description of the stream to take you here. They sell all 6 of these books for 140 bucks. That is such a phenomenal deal. It's not even funny. So you can get all 6 of these 11 by 17 course books for 140 bucks. And I think they're $49 each if you want to buy them separately. This is cool. Getting back to the book, Joe's talking about perspective. And obviously you need to learn perspective. And even in a scene like this, where there's no actual buildings, you still need to take into account the perspective and a grid so you can make people, stand on surfaces properly. This guy's flying, and make the stuff look like it's in the proper perspective. Here, Joe's talking about room layouts. And for instance, when I was in school there, he would say, when you're designing a room, do a standard flat architectural drawing, which is a down shot of the room, and just sketch in where the stuff is. And you can tell here's a door, here's a couch, coffee table, end table, end table. It looks like a lamp with some books on it, chair, and other things. And then from this, you can move the camera any way around the room you want. You're welcome, Steve. Steve says, okay, awesome. I'm going to have to pick these up. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Anytime, Steve. These are fantastic books, like I say. Even for outside shots, Joe would set up like a down shot so he knew where things were. And then you have the elevation sketch plan to go off of it from the schematic. Here, Joe's just talking about using reference. You always need to use reference when you're doing things. With Google these days, Google Images makes finding reference for anything so easy. Another blank sheet of paper. This is another assignment. So every assignment, Joe tells you the procedure for the assignment, shows you how you're supposed to break up your page, and then gives you the bullet points on what you're supposed to do for the assignment. This is a lesson in camera angles. So basically in the center here, this is like a long shot of the scene of the two dudes fighting. And then up here, here's a different angle on that scene. Here's another angle on the scene. And then here's another angle and yet another angle on the scene Joe's trying to show. So he teaches you some about camera angles. It's very important in comic books, just like movies, to move your camera around. Panel variety. So he's going into different panel variety here. For instance, you don't have to do if it's a 6-panel page, you don't have to do a 6-panel grid. You can try different panel shapes and sizes for the 6 panels. And this is all Joe Kubert art. I can tell. I know his thumbnails anywhere. And he's talking about pacing. Pacing is the timing of how you tell the story in the panels, how fast the timing goes. Because in between the gutter is an amount of time. So he gives you a part breakdown of that here in the different ways to do it. Cool little thumbnail he did of basically the same scene, just broken up and shown differently. And C, the camera's in really tight. And in D, he starts with a long shot, and then it cuts to the gorilla, and then it cuts to a long overhead shot, and then facing off, and then they clash. Whereas here, this is just kind of confusing. It's like, oh, Tarzan's in the foreground. You see the gorilla. Looks like here the gorilla with Tarzan in the background. They're facing off. It's just not as clear storytelling-wise there. Another blank page of Bristol. This page, he's just talking about different styles in art. So he shows pencils up here of a variety of different drawing styles, and then the inks down below. Here he's talking about full script versus a plot. The full script breaks it down by panel. So panel 1, description, panel 2, description, panel 3, description, panel 4. Whereas the plot is literally just a paragraph summing all of this up into a tight little paragraph. And it's up to you to figure out how many panels you want to put on the page. Another homework assignment for you to do that he goes into full explanation on. Did I say explanation? I meant explanation. This says the following pages contain examples of cartoon art styles. So that's pretty cool. Drawn by Joe. This is great. Animation. So I guess he's talking about, he's showing the difference. Like, this is comic book art because you can get really detailed with comics. But in animation, you need to pare it down because it's animation. It needs to be simpler for the animators. So it's kind of like comic book stuff, animation, comic book, animation, comic book, animation. Another reason I just love this book is just I love Joe Kubert's artwork. I've said that for a long time. It's just so fluid. There's so much motion to it. I just love this figure Joe did of this guy flying. Just look at that. Oops, get it in camera. That is just such a great figure of a guy flying, a hero flying. He's got a nice subtle head tilt, which is opposing his shoulders. His shoulders are going this way, the head tilts this way. So there's some movement to it. He's got a leg coming up, another leg going back. And it's just gorgeous stuff. Exaggeration. This is just beautiful. Forced perspective, very Kirby-esque with the pose. Just really coming at you, the figure in perspective, this leg going back. You've got this arm coming forward, the opposite side leg coming forward, and this arm going back. It's just really in your face. Getting towards the end of this one. Contrast and shadow, lesson 5. Just showing some different examples of lighting on this guy with the hat. This, for instance, has some reflected light kicking back in up here, whereas this has really strong cast shadows. And then this is lit from behind, and it's really strong black and white. Get that mood across. And then this last one, I believe this is last. He's just talking about how he starts his drawings, and he'll start things with just this blobby shape, you know, just indicating like the head and the fist and where the legs are. And then from there, he can fit everything within that shape. I mean, look at this guy. This is just awesome. It's coming at you with this arm, chest, this leg's coming at us, this leg's going back, which is different from here because you can see here it's kind of here and in the back, but he turned it some from his initial sketch. Just gorgeous. And he literally takes you through the 4 steps of him creating a panel. I miss Joe. Joe was just the best. Another blank sheet of paper. Another assignment to go into showing you how to break it up. And then he talks about the other courses. And he goes into some equipment on the back cover. So that's the penciling one right here. Penciling. Let's bust open another one. Try and get through 2 of these because I've got till about 4 o'clock and then I've got to go. Let's see what we got here. Oh, my camera turned. We've got horror, inking. Let's do inking. I did penciling. Let's do inking now. I think Joe did most of the stuff in the inking one. Hold on here. I got to get my camera situated. Inking the Joe Kubert way, you could say. Look at this figure. Just look at that. He makes it look so effortless. Or he made it look so effortless. Unfortunately, Joe passed away in 2012. So once again, it starts off with the table of contents and the basics. He goes into his inking tools. I know a lot of people are doing digital stuff, but us old guys like doing traditional. So he uses a brush. I use Raphael Kalinsky 8404, number 3. That's what I was given in art school, I believe, when I went to the Kubert School. He has different pen nibs, a Quo Quill Hunt 102. He also uses a lettering pen, B5 or B6, and of course he has his whiteout. Those are the different ones. There are different size Quo Quills. The most popular is a 102 pen point, but you know, experiment and play. I've used the 102, I've used the 108, I've used the 107. So you just kind of have to experiment. Shows his table, or if you use a lap board. Once again, nice piece of Bristol board to practice on. He goes into, of course, taking care of your tools, because these brushes aren't cheap. A good inking brush can set you back 25, 30 bucks. But you go, wow, that's a lot of money. It is for a brush, but I can get a good year or more out of a brush. So when you look at it like that, it's not that bad. I hear you, Chris, but it's never too late to pick up a pencil or pen, and I'm sure you're drawing, and just go to it. You know, get some of these books. These books are a great deal. And he's just talking about practicing and stuff. Unfortunately, when you buy these books, they don't come with the videos, but you can probably find every one of these videos on YouTube. I haven't looked, but I'm sure you can. Here he's showing different things you can do: cross-hatching, flexible lines, feathering, gray lines, feathering to black, stipple. I love this. This shows a very nice pencil drawing that Joe did of a figure, and then next to it, his inks on it. I could look at that all day. Man, I just love that. That's just gorgeous. And that's, to me, the pencils that Joe does are what pencils should look like, because you need an inker to interpret those pencils. I mean, you can see the difference when he inked it himself, but, you know, the way he pencils is he'll go in and do a nice outline drawing and then take a really blunt pencil and do the shading and indicate the rendering in the black areas on the figure. But then an inker really has to go in and interpret it. You know, some inkers might have thought, I'll just do this whole arm black, but he graded out some. It's all practice. This would be really fun to ink. Pen or brush, lesson 1. Look at this art. I think the pencils here were drawn by Andy on the left, and then on the right, this one looks like it's drawn by Joe. So he's basically saying, you know, take tracing paper or vellum and put it over top of this stuff and practice your inking. Of course, in this day and age, if you had this book and you had a scanner, you could scan this in, take it into Photoshop, convert it to a really light blue, print it out onto Bristol, and ink right on Bristol. In the old days, we would have to take vellum to do it. Here he's just showing some more of, or trying to explain, I guess you could say, more of his inking philosophy. Down here, he's just showing different techniques for things like explosions and even snowfall. Agent Cub, I didn't even know the Joe Kubert School existed when I graduated from high school. Otherwise, I probably would have gone. It's not too late. You can get these books. You can get these books. Look, there's my Joe Kubert School diploma I got in 1991. You can see it on my bookshelf right there. It's never too late, guys. So here he's just talking about ruling panel borders. I know when Joe would rule panel borders, he would use the B5 lettering pen. I don't use that pen to rule panel borders. I just use a Micron. I believe I use a 08 or 1 bullet point Micron to rule panel borders. But, you know, to each his own. This is cool because he shows pencils, and then he shows a close-up of the inking technique he used. And then down below, the pens he used to get it. Man, this book is so good. Metal and Fur, Lesson 2. Oh, look at that. Chris Reeder says, you graduated in 91. I would have started in 92. Would have just missed you. Yep. So this is cool. He's showing pencils to a few different textures, and then he's showing close-up down below how he inked it. I mean, that is just so cool. This is great. It's hard to see, but right here, you can kind of make out the figure, and there's not much detail at all. And then when he's done inking it, he did all that detail. That's pretty funny. And then he's just showing what pens he used and whatnot for the different areas of the inking. Oh, you did go to animation school. What animation school did you go to? Glasses and scales. This is fantastic. Just showing the different inking techniques used. And please remember to like and subscribe to my channel. Hit the little notification bell, if you will, so you know when I upload a new video or go live. Here he's talking about foliage and smoke. This book pretty much runs through the gambit of all the different textures and stuff that you'll come across. Oh, the Art Center in Tucson. That's cool. Here's a good one, water and concrete. I mean, seriously, if I'm inking something and I'm like, I want to try a different technique, I can just crack this book open and go, oh, that's cool. I'll try that. Even in pencil, this water looks like it's raging. Now, concrete's fantastic. Down here again, showing lesson number 2. He's having you pencil a couple different objects to ink. And once again, these books all come with Bristol board paper. This is a nice little lesson on lighting when it comes to inking. And first he shows the cylinder. And obviously he shows that the cylinder has form to it and is round. Then he applies it to an arm with very high contrast lighting, so a very strong light source from this side coming over and knocking the rest out in shadow. And then here he shows doing that same way, except pulling some feathering out of it. And this feathering, you can tell, helps smooth and transition light to dark. And then this last one, he inked it where he kicked in some reflected light. So there's light, the strong light source is coming from the right, and then there's a secondary light source or reflected light bouncing back in from the left. So very cool. So here's a figure that Joe did that you can put tracing paper over and try to ink. I love the way Joe pencils. More lessons on dramatic lighting. If you uplight something, it often gives it a spooky feel. It's so spooky, it scares me. I'm getting scared. This is showing kind of depth and dimension with no rendering. So here is the pencil drawing. Here it's inked correctly because even though there's no rendering and no strong blacks, everything separates because of the way the inker chose to do his line weights and where to put the line weights. So in this, everything separates: foreground, middle ground, background. This, however, is just dead. There's no line weight to it. There's no depth to it. Everything looks like it's on the same plane. You know, this foreground figure is no more coming into the foreground than these background guys are. But this one really shows nice depth with the line work. Another lesson in contrast. The first one is a linear style pen. An ink illustration can be framed against a solid black background. The second one says humor or animation style cartoon illustration may be rendered with a white halo outline, which permits the object to be seen more clear. So this white line around it is what they call a halo. Generally, I don't do halos unless it's black on black to pop off whatever the black is. This one is figures composed of blocks of black may blend into the solid black background. That gives it a spookier feel, like it's coming right out of the shadow. And then this one has some more gray tone on it as he's walking out of the shadow. And then there's some more examples down below of Joe's work. I tell you guys, these books are phenomenal. And they're a great deal. $49.95 a piece. Here he's talking about how to do different effects with a sponge, a toothbrush for splatter, dry brush effect, a cloth or stamp, even cellophane to give a certain type of effect using cellophane. And then he shows you how he would do corrections back in the day, whereas, you know, in this day and age, if you mess up, you can just do a patch on a separate sheet of paper, scan it in, and patch it together in Photoshop. But back when Joe was coming up, there was no Photoshop and computers, so you had to cut out panels and replace a whole panel with a new piece of paper. Another assignment. This is a lesson on humor drawing, because inking humor is a bit different. See that? This is another lesson in humor, and you could say animation style, where he shows the different steps. Like, this is definitely comic book rendering. This is fine for comics too. This actually reminds me of Alex Toth, another famous artist. And then it gets a little cartoonier, and then you can get as cartoony as something like that. And actually, each one of these would work in a comic book. It just depends on what your style is. And if you choose a style like one of these, you have to keep it consistent throughout the book. There's Joe drawing something a little cartoony. Down here, he's showing the different type of inking and how to simplify it. Here he's showing just different pencil techniques that he's going to ink and how he's going to ink them. So like trees in the background, and how he would go in and not ink them with solid black, but do some black and some line work, showing that elf's face and just the different areas, even like on this gorilla in the background, using a mix of brush and pen to ink that. Chris says, do you have the superheroes and supervillain books too? Chris, I have all 6. I have all 6. However, I only have 4 of them this size. I've got 4 books this size, and then I've got story graphics and superheroes as 8.5 by 11 copies that I was able to get from a friend of mine. But I need to take my own advice and go to the website and just order those 2 so I can have them all this size. So more just showing character sheet. So it's a little more than inking in this one as well, because he goes into movement, character movement, and a little bit into how animation was done back in the day. Nice. It is. It's very nice. But I need to go in and order them so I can have them this size. Oops. Here he's showing a couple different type of, well, this is humorous, but different inking styles in humorous. This first one has a real Jack Davis feel. This is real political editorial cartooning look with the way it is. And just a couple different. This is a real Mobius, the French artist style. And in here he's showing exaggeration. What's up, Eric? Thanks for joining in, buddy. And this is, how he breaks down a character sheet. Does a head here, does a large figure here, then different smaller figures there. This is an assignment. Here he's taking you through his penciling process for a figure. This stuff I just love. This is his rough drawing, which you can see the basic shapes. You can see how the figure's created with a boxy shape for the torso, cylinders for the arms and legs. And then from there, he can go in, put tracing paper over it, and do a little more detail. And then from that detail, take his pencil, figure out what his lighting is, and do his lighting and whatnot. So, yeah, step 1, rough, linear, and then adding light and shadow. And I know that's how both his sons work. Oh, this is a good question. Android says, do they have digital versions of these? They do not. Unfortunately, they do not. I'll share my screen again. This is the website. It's just kubertartstore.com. kubertartstore.com. Here, I'll post the link. There should be a link below the description of the YouTube, but just in case. There's a link to it. So it's kubertartstore.com. They have all 6. So a book, if you want to actually do the lessons, it looks like it's the book with the critique is $175. The individual books are basically $49.95, or the big deal, get all 6 books for $139.95. That, my friend, is a fantastic deal for all 6 of these babies. Oh, that's cool. Hold on. Oops, I don't want to skip. He's still talking about shadows and some animation stuff here. God, he makes it look so easy. A couple examples here of how adding blacks and stuff and shadows can add credibility to your art. Simplifying once again. This is the technique here I mentioned previously where you do your line drawing, which is on the left, and then on the right, you can put tracing paper over it to lay in shadows and lighting and stuff. And by doing it on tracing paper, it gives you a chance to do, as many different concepts as you like for the lighting. And there, Eric McIntyre has a question. Did you use those when you were at the Kubert School? No, Eric. I went to the school from 1988 to 1991, and Joe created these books. I believe, I don't know if there's a, yeah. Joe created these in 1998, so he created these 7 years after I left the Kubert School. I wish these were around then, but they weren't. But I bought them, and I still learned stuff from them. So this is science fiction stuff he's breaking down, showing his different inking techniques for different things. He's showing here corrections, which you can use. I've never had, what's he using here? Oh, so here he's using what they call an ink eraser. I've never had luck with an ink eraser. Now, I have used an electric eraser and been able to erase ink, but I've never been able to use an eraser, handheld eraser, to erase ink. I've never been able to do this method. So basically, he doesn't like this eye. So he takes a razor, and because the 2-ply Bristol board is 2-ply, it's thicker paper, if you're careful, you can scrape up a layer of the paper, and then you still have a layer underneath to redraw and re-ink whatever you messed up. I've never had that work for me. This is probably the only method I've had work where you mess something up. So you take a scrap sheet of the same type of paper and basically glue it down and then just draw over top of it and re-ink it. So you're doing a patch. And then, of course, whiteout is your friend. That's basically it for this one, this inking one. I'll show you one of the smaller ones I have. This one, hold on, I gotta fix my camera. Gotta fix my homemade clip-on, which is my webcam clipped to my shirt. That's how I roll. So this is one of the ones I have photocopies of. Obviously, it's not 11 by 17, but I do need to order this, which, you know, I think I might do when we're done here. So this is superheroes. This is my favorite one because this has more Joe's figure work in it, and I love Joe's figure work. Table of contents. This is all black and white because, like I said, it's just photocopy. Oh, nope, it is in color. So whoever did this for me, I got color copies of it. So I love this. Joe goes into proportions of a figure. Basically, the left-hand side is realistic proportions. The right-hand side is heroic proportions. Same with the female figure. She's busty. See that? Busty. I like big butts and I cannot lie. No other brother can deny. I love this exaggeration. This one is all drawn by Joe. Love this. That is just so cool. It's like, yeah, you could take a normal guy and draw him as a hero, or you see these blue lines and you really beef him up, and that's a freaking hero. That is how I draw superheroes, my friends. Got a little dinosaur action. Different things going on there. So if you're a fan of Joe Kubert's artwork, these books are for you. How he constructs a head. Different head construction down there. Here he's talking about action and line of action and movement of the figure. Drawing from life. Joe was huge on drawing from life. He would go to life drawing classes to draw from live models. Ooh, Slim W says, I just saw this. They have a special going on. BOGO, buy one, get one. Just bought a couple. Yeah, I didn't know if they still had that sale going on. Thanks for mentioning that. So basically, let me go back here and take a look on this web page. Give me a second here, guys. Complete set, heroes and superheroes. Trying to find that sale. Penciling, inking, penciling, sort of graphics. Give me 1 second, guys. Where did you see that buy one? Complete set, heroes and superheroes. I don't know. Well, I'm sure you can find it on the site, so definitely check that out. Uh, Jesse, hey, Jesse, thanks for joining. What would be a good point to start for a novice, or what would you recommend? Well, Eric, if you don't know, I happen to have a book called Drawing Dynamic Comics. So, of course, I recommend my drawing book, Drawing Dynamic Comics. You can find it at Amazon. I think you can get it for like $5 because it came out 20 years ago. Terry, hello. Hello. Thanks for joining. But you just got to start drawing. I think my book is actually good for beginners. What I'm going through here is good, but he does skip a few things along the way. You know, he doesn't show like the step-by-step process. My drawing book, Drawing Dynamic Comics, does. So you can look at that. So we're just going through this superhero book. This is creating your own characters. Like I said, if you're a fan of Joe Kubert's work, this book is a must. Some of the stuff's kind of light. He's talking about individuality to characters you create. Oh, there you go. Slim says, click on one, ask you which one you want free. Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's great to know. I'm going to have to do that later. Oh, here's another page where Joe's basically showing off cool design stuff that he does. Look at that little Hawkman. I mean, come on, that is Hawkman right there. That's Hawkman. We all know it. This is talking about body language and in different types of heads. Showing body language, showing hands. Different proportions for figures. Got a nice question here. Terry says, is First Man your own book? Yes, Terry, it is my book, my creation. It's on Indiegogo right now, and I would appreciate any support from my fans. If you want something I created and not one of the big two, that is First Man. It's a 64-page graphic novel. It's square bound. It's good, fun superhero stuff. So check it out. I love this. This is another assignment where I think you're creating your own character. Joe showing how he would do it on the page. I just love this figure. Another cool figure by Joe. I mean, you can just tell this leg's coming at us. This is going back. He's just so good at depth. I mean, just this right here on the cover. That fight is awesome. Some more work by Joe explaining variations and whatnot. I just like to draw that Spider-Man. So I'm going to do something here. Uh-oh, I do see what you're talking about. Anyhow, credibility. So he's talking about when you're creating characters. Because remember, this is the superhero one. So it's about creating characters. So he's talking about credibility. And even if you make like a robot, you want to add details to it so it looks credible. It looks like it could work. Same with the monsters. Here he's talking about reference. for when you create specific characters, you want to get reference on things. With Google image search, there should be no problem getting reference. This is just great. I mean, this book is just filled up with Joe's work. Just love it. Such good stuff. Look at that back shot of that guy with the lighting going on. And this is the superhero one, talking about different body shapes right there. Here he's talking about, this is another assignment, and it looks like for creating a character and how he wants you to lay it out on the page. Got another question? Speaking of first, I had a question for you, Andy. Would you consider a perk where you do a head sketch or body sketch that's not the back of the book? I tell you what, Eric, I think I'm going to leave that up to the if you get a perk of a body or a head sketch level, I will ask the person when the campaign's over if they would like it drawn on a separate sheet of paper so it's not in the book itself, and that's what I'll do. So if you back it at that level, I'll leave it up to you when the campaign's over and I ask you what character you want me to draw, if you want it in the book or not. How's that? This is great. This is talking about perspective. You need to know perspective because on the left-hand side, that goofy-looking guy looks like he's actually flying over a city. Whereas on the right-hand side, this guy's drawn really nice and realistic, but that background is just totally whack because it's not in perspective. It doesn't look real. Oh, hey, Tari. Oh, you follow me on Instagram. Thank you. And thank you for telling me how to pronounce your name. I really appreciate that. I hate messing people's names up. So thanks for following me, Tari. I really appreciate that. I got to get more on Instagram. Here are just different, he's just talking about different locales and stuff when you create different locations. Here he's going a little bit into environment. I think Joe is one of the best artists around when it comes to drawing somebody walking in the rain. I mean, look at that. It really gives you the sense that it's pouring rain out on that guy. And I love that. Just love it. I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Joe was a master. I think he was a true genius in the comic book art realm and just a master draftsman. It's gorgeous. Tari says, you're good, bro. It's no big deal with the name thing. I like your stuff. I appreciate it, but, you know, same thing. I like getting people's names right. It's all about respect. It's your name. You should have it pronounced the right way. So he's just going through. Now he's showing like thumbnails and stuff that he does for pages. Which is very cool. I love this. Look at that guy. That dude is just, I mean, that's like Zeus level toughness. Just so awesome. He's talking about body language down here. Here are some thumbnails. I mean, these thumbnails are just gorgeous. I wish my thumbnails were this tight. I could look at this stuff. There's so much to learn from these thumbnails. Just fantastic. That's right. It's about respect, Eric. You got it. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. That is what it means to me. Respect. Just a little bit. Respect. I'm totally messing up that song. Respect. Here he shows a thumbnail. Then he shows the rough pencils, and I wish this was bigger, and he calls that finished pencils. I mean, this was still drawn smaller, but all the information's there. And then he's just showing the penciling the title, inking the lettering, erasing the pencil guidelines. It's going into a little more, whoops, with the pencil drawing. And then he's practicing inking on tracing paper. Just showing some sketch lines and stuff. These books are so worth the money. That's it for this one. I'm going to turn my camera back around. So look at my palm. As I turn the camera back around. Well, hello. I'm back. Oh, now I got an itch. I had the camera right here. Oh, it itches so bad now. Oh. Let me show you those books again that I have. So like I said, I have Story Graphics, small version. I just showed you superheroes. We went through inking. Gorgeous. I did not go through horror. I will open up to show some pages of it, but obviously I took the camera off. I'm not going to do a down and dirty flip through. I believe this horror one, most of the artwork in it is by a fantastic artist named Tom Mandrake, who also went to the school. He went way before I did. So Tom Mandrake did most of the art in this one because he is great at doing this horror stuff. But I would definitely recommend this book as well. I'll just kind of look through and see some. Oh, here's a great page that shows some pencils and inks. Look at that. Fantastic. Let's see. I mean, to me, these books are just a wealth of knowledge. I mean, look at this. You can fold them back, so they're spiral. So, beautiful cemetery, castle, just great lighting on this stuff. More beautiful work by Tom. Talking about horror. When I was a kid, I used to hate horror movies. Now I love them. Oh, this is great. This is great for lighting. Even though I've shown other lighting things, this is Tom Mandrake talking about lighting. So you've got the basic figure with no lighting, and then lighting from the right-hand side, and then lighting from below and lighting from above. Just a great example of how to do lighting on a figure. This is Joe doing some great textures. Again, look at that. Rain, snow. And you can feel it all. You feel the cold in that panel with the snow, and then there's the one with the wind blowing. So that's horror. Like I said, I don't have time to go through the whole thing because I'm actually going to be on another live stream later. Tari says, lighting is something I have to learn. It'll help me a lot. Lighting is something I'm still learning. I've been drawing comics for 30 years, and I'm still always practice my lighting. And another one we'll go through real quick. Super villains. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. So I still have my receipt from when I bought this one. So I bought this one in 2013, and it was $79. And now you can buy them for $50. And I guess it's buy one, get one. So it's a sweet deal. Let's get in. So Joe starts off the superhero one, talking about body type and how you can morph it into a super villain is what I meant to say. He's a super villain. Super villain. Whoa, super villain. Look at that. Gorgeous. Just the knowledge in that anatomy. And then down here with this dude he created. So super villain, super villain. What? Here's a great one. Great full page. Beautiful. Eric says, do you erase those lines as you go? So when I do a drawing on paper, I start with a 2B pencil, which is a pretty soft lead pencil, and I like it because it really glides over the paper. And I'll use just regular copy paper to do a rough, and I'll do a rough drawing on that, and then I'll use a kneaded eraser to wipe it away gently. With a kneaded eraser is a type of eraser that it's like it says, it's kneadable. You can make it in different shapes, flatten it out, whatever. And I'll wipe over the drawing lightly so there's a faint ghost image of it, and then I'll tighten it up more. And then after that stage, I'll put it on a light box to tighten it up to the final drawing. So I hope that makes sense. Let's keep going through the supervillain book, just looking for some cool stuff. Every one of these books I've gone through, he goes into lighting, which I think is great. So he goes into lighting once again here and shows different examples of lighting. He goes into showing the outline of a drawing before he adds rendering, and then this is what the drawing looks like after he does the pencil rendering, before obviously you go to ink. So I think that's a very great example. This really shows Joe's process too. He'll do a drawing, and after he cleans it up, so there's a stage before this he isn't showing. He's not showing the very rough stage. So first is a very rough stage, and then it gets cleaned up to this nice line, clean line. And then from the clean line, you go to the middle drawing, adding lighting. And then after you do your lighting, he shows you the inking. Of course, he inked this one. He penciled this one with lighting from above, but inked it with lighting from below. Super villain. I'm a super villain. Do, do, do. Let's see, what else do we got here? He's talking about, just looking for some key stuff to show. This shows how he designs like a room. So on the left-hand side, you can see the sketches of the room. And in the middle, he shows perspective drawing of that room. Oops. And a different angle on it. And in here, you can see the room coming together with the dude on the table and the creepy guy going up the steps. And this is kind of what that looked like down here as a breakdown with just the basic shapes. Get some more cool stuff here. Goes into perspective. This is cool, just showing a creature underwater holding a submarine, showing water and rendering sea creatures. And this is the supervillain book. So he's talking about the big bad evil supervillains. There's super villains. Supervillains. God, they just scare me. This book is scaring me. In fact, here, one of the last pages I'll show is a creepy monster because he's going into monsters. Yeah. Creepy monster. The body posture. That werewolf looking dude down there. Super. These are just super villains. Let's see. It's kind of about it. Yeah, I think that wraps that one. So that's super villains. So that's my tour for you guys of going through the Kubert School books. If anybody was wondering about my book, let's see here real quick. I'll share my screen. Give me a second. So this is my book, Drawing Dynamic Comics. Ignore this. It says $38.99. That's from a third-party seller. It's because the book's out of print now. It's hard to read, but there are 38 used ones starting at $3.96. So this is my book. You can click on it at Amazon if you want to look through it. Of course, I recommend this book to everybody that wants to learn how to draw comics. It does feature my characters, First Man, Penumbra, and Monarch. A little table of contents action. And it takes you through basics and stuff on drawing different styles, my section of lighting, and then it jumps right to the index. But that's my book. So if you like this book, go over to Amazon. And like I said, there's 38 of them starting at $3.96, $7.95, $3.96, $7.95, $7.95, free shipping. Free shipping. Look at that. That's what I like to see. I just bought Drawing Dynamic Comics off Amazon. I hope you got it used, buddy. Hope you got it used, brother. So you got $3.96, $4 shipping, or $7.95 with free shipping. $4. So tons of different prices for it. So check out my book, if you will. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining me. Since it was brought up, yes, I will show you my Indiegogo campaign real fast for First Man, my comic that I would love it so much if you jumped on board and backed me and supported my project. It's because of people like you that allow me to create this stuff. This is my campaign, First Man. Watch the video. Let's watch the video.
First Man, you know the drill. A college kid is imbued with great power and likes it. Penumbra has other plans and hand delivers him to Monarch, a fun 64-page action-packed comic book harkening back to the glory days of Marvel Comics, only on Indiegogo.
There you go. That is First Man. It's a 64-page graphic novel starring my superhero, First Man, who is actually Apollo, who is actually Luke Henry, that turns into Apollo because of this essence that he acquired from another planet that this guy, Monarch, thinks is rightfully his, and he's coming to Earth to take it. But then Penumbra, the female lead of the story, she's got a major involvement with the essence that takes over Luke Henry. Each character is going to have their very own bio page, so you can read about them and how they came to be. Here's some of the interior. Oh, look at that guy. Who's that guy? That's me. These are some of the interior pages from the book. I do a fake Hostess ad because I grew up on comics. I had these ads for Hostess Twinkies and fruit pies, except this is hosted fruit pies. My buddy Bart Sears did a variant cover that you can get, and I'm doing a 40-page program book that has some of today's top talents drawing their version of First Man. Those are all printed in the book, and then the rest of the book is going to be behind the scenes stuff like page layouts, unused pages, concept art, and stuff like that. This is a separate book that's 40 pages. Eric asked, I'm doing head sketches in the back of the book at a certain level. I'm doing figure sketches in the back of the book at a certain level of backing. And if you want, just tell me and I'll draw it on a separate sheet of paper, but it will be the same size. I've got a couple sketch covers up for sale. So Spider-Woman is up, Storm is up, Justice League is up for sale. So you can get original sketch covers. Everybody's going to be getting a 2-sided bookmark and a 2-sided trading card. And the next stretch goal is a 4x5-inch magnet to put on your refrigerator, and so you can look at it every morning and go, that is my new favorite superhero. So please back First Man. I would appreciate it. I will put a link in the chat. Oops. That's not what I meant to do. Here comes the link. So please back my book. I would really appreciate it. It's through my fans that let me draw my creations and get them into your hands. Thank you for watching this video as I took you through some of the Joe Kubert Correspondence Course books. I highly recommend you get them. They are fantastic and well worth the money. Until next time, everyone, bye-bye. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified when I put up new videos. I'm trying to grow this channel as best I can. Thank you very much, and I'll catch you guys sometime later, maybe next week. Bye-bye.